Hi, bitch besties. It's your main bitch, Melly. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to another episode of the Judgy Bitch Pod. Hi, Steven. Welcome to the Judgy Bitch Pod.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And how funny is it that today is Labor Day and we have like a work-related podcast coming up? I know it's not going to air for a few more weeks, but how funny is that we're recording it today?
Exactly. No, it's perfect, I think.
And speaking of Labor Day, it's a holiday, so cheers.
Cheers to you.
I'm drinking an Aperol Spritz. What are you drinking?
This is a tequila and squirt, so very simple.
Yum. I love me a skinny margarita. Is that similar?
Exactly.
I love it. So I normally start the episodes by asking my guests to tell my bitch besties out there how you and I know each other.
Yes, definitely. So I guess we met, oh my goodness, was it over a year ago or around a year ago? Because I'm a recruiter. So we met professionally, I would say, through just like you as a candidate, me working with you, partnering with you to find you a position. So that's how we know each other. And we've like stayed connected ever since.
Absolutely. It's not been a year yet. It's only been, I think we met in March or April, funny
Okay.
enough. This year has been such a bitch. It's such a long year. So I don't blame you for thinking it's been a year.
Yep. In
Yeah.
my mind, it feels like it's a year.
I know. Honestly, this year was so much. It felt like 3 years to me. I mean, the pandemic kind of erased in my mind any time sense I ever had. So ever since 2020, I lost a complete sense of time. And this year's, especially, it's just so much happened here in LA, starting off with the fires and everything. And then I was laid off and that's how we met. And, it was just so much that it literally feels like a year. So I don't blame you.
Yes.
Yeah. But since you're a recruiter and you're on and it's Labor Day, and that's why I think it's fun that, we're connecting on those topics on Labor Day when we're literally celebrating people who are in the workforce. So I love that.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah. But you recently shared with me that you very recently went to Bali. How was that?
Bali is incredible. It was actually my second time going. So I went 10 years ago and I went this time around with my partner and his family. So it was amazing. So I would say highly recommend it as long as you are ready to spend 24 hours of travel time because there are no direct flights from Los Angeles to Bali. You would have to connect through one of the other airports. So I would say as long as you're ready to spend 24 hours of the day traveling just to get there, it's such a beautiful country. The people there are amazing, so hospitable, so friendly, like almost like too friendly, where everyone says hi to you when you're walking down the street. It's so like very warm, very friendly. And you can't beat the prices. I think we all got 4.5 hour massage treatments for $100 US,
Wow.
which is insane.
That's unheard of. That's
Exactly.
incredible. I've been to Bali, I think about 15 years ago. I was still living in Germany at that time. And I flew with my sister from Berlin to Frankfurt. My sister was living in Frankfurt. So we started our trip from Frankfurt. And I think we flew 19 hours into Taipei. We had a 2-hour layover. And I remember from this long travel, I was like exhausted and feeling a little like sick. And in Taipei, everything smelled so much like lemon cleaner and sanitizer. And the smell, I was like, I can't. I don't know how I'm going to do it for 2 hours. And then we had another 6-hour flight from there to Bali. And that flight was so bumpy. And I was sick to my stomach. And then, which we didn't know, or I didn't know at the time, that my sister was pregnant at the time. So that bitch was sleeping. She missed the entire second flight. I was suffering by myself. I'm like, how is this bitch sleeping? I'm literally about to throw up and she's just passed out sleeping. And then once we finally got into Bali, it took forever at the immigration desk. It was such a mess. They didn't even have like a straight line for the people waiting. Everybody was everywhere. And then once you get to your luggage, they already had taken off the luggage off of the carousel and was just, lined up next to it. And then once we finally left the airport, the humidity and the heat, I thought I was going to pass out. And I was still a smoker at the time. Shame on me. But, after not having had a cigarette for, I don't know, 24, 25 hours, whatever that time of travel took. And then we came out in that humidity heat and I had my first cigarette. Oh my God. I thought I'm going to faint any minute. I was like, oh, I don't know how I can do it. But then once the vacation actually started, it was so beautiful. It's such a pretty island. It was incredible. Was your travel out there just as exhausting as mine?
Not as exhausting. I would say this time around, I was expecting everything you described, like the immigration process being forever, the luggage situation. But this time around, I was shocked. It was so much more seamless. I think they have a lot of things electronic or online now that you do ahead of time. So that's why it was like very seamless. It was really quick. I was
Mhm.
shocked. But the travel itself is just, you can't. I mean, I'll say I was drinking the whole time or trying to drink the whole time on the plane just to get through it. And, you end up they're hungover and you're like that's how you start. And again, the humidity, you're correct. It hits you like a brick. It's
Yes.
as soon as you it's that's not the type of feeling you want to have when you're trying to just survive and just, stay awake.
Yeah. Next time I travel with you, this is definitely more my speed, drinking on the plane and arriving hungover.
Yes, yes, yes. Airport lounge, yeah, on the plane, exactly.
I love it. What was your favorite part of Bali?
I would say it was probably we got to make rings. So we went to like a silver store, like a silver place where each person got to make their own rings. So you got to melt the silver. You worked with a person to like roll out the silver and they actually handcraft customized rings for each person. And that was really cool because it's like you got to do the whole experience. You got to polish the ring and the overall process cost $30 US. So it
Wow.
was just so affordable and just like such a fun process. And like
Wow.
it's not just buying a ring. It's like you got to create the ring yourself.
Wait, you mentioned you went with your partner. So did you buy rings or did you buy rings?
Oh no, no, we bought rings. Actually, the funny thing is, I told my partner, I was like, I hope you're not thinking of proposing during this trip because like I was like, yes, proposing's great, but like not with like mom and dad, sister there. It's just like I just wanted to like have a family trip. So I was like, oh, I hope it's not a proposal type of trip.
Okay. So he was like, okay, ring back in the pocket.
Exactly.
I love that. I love it. How long did you stay there?
It was a week, just over a week. So it's a
Nice.
good amount of time. It was like enough time to enjoy the time there, but also kind of ready to come back towards the end. I was like missing some of the food here and just like my own bed.
Yeah. No, I get that. Especially when you're traveling with family, it can get a little overwhelming at times.
Yep. Yep. Again, just wanted to like my own routine back here, my
Yeah.
own shower, my own bed, everything.
Yeah. Did you travel around the island? Did you see different parts of the island and like the traditions and the temples? And I don't know, I think we saw like a fire dance and the monkeys, and we went to like a turtle island. And did you do all that too?
A lot of the same things. We went to Ubud, so went to like the countryside, the to see the rice paddies.
Oh,
We
yes.
also took one of those boats to I think it's like Nusa Penida or something like that. It's like one of the smaller islands off of Bali, and that's where we got to do like a day tour of sightseeing. So we got to travel a little bit, but the nice thing was a lot of it was staycation. So staying at the resort. The resort was really nice, so I was happy to be able to stay there and just like have cocktails and just relax.
Oh yeah, that's definitely my type of vacation. I usually take my bitch bestie Simone, who was on the podcast earlier. My very first episode was actually with her. We usually go to the Dominican Republic just because it's cheap, and we stay at all-inclusive resorts and pretty much start drinking after breakfast.
I love that. Were you in Punta Cana when you went to the DR?
No, we
Oh,
usually stay in the south somewhere. We've never been to Punta Cana actually. We always stay in the south because it's just budget friendlier, so to speak, but very nice. Yeah. So you recently mentioned to me that you also like festivals, and we actually connected over my favorite band that I mentioned to you that I went to the Simple Plan concert, and you were like, "Yeah, oh my God, I almost went too." Tell me about your taste of music. What type of music are you into?
so all types of music. I would say just name a few. It would be like classical music. I grew up playing piano, so classical piano I love, or anything classical related. Musicals, I love musicals. And then my partner recently got me into EDM music, so we went to EDC this year, like electronic dance festivals. I love that. And then of course I kind of grew up with punk rock too. So I love, things like Yellowcard, Simple Plan, and any of those like Blink 182, Offspring,
I love that
so
so
all
much.
types.
I love that so much. Simple Plan is my favorite band of all times. I've been following them for over 23 years and they've been around for 25 years. So pretty much from the first day on, I've been following them and been to many concerts and I love them. So it's so funny that you like the type of music too. Because I don't meet a lot of people who like that type of music. So it's interesting.
I agree. Yeah, I feel like it's maybe like I don't know exactly if we're the same generation, but I think it's a similar generation. It's like nostalgic and it's like again, we grew up with that music and I remember going to see when I went to see Yellowcard maybe like 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. It was pretty much everyone around my age. It was like a almost like a reunion of sorts. It was kind of
Yes.
fun.
That's how the Simple Plan concert was too. And everybody sang along at the top of their lungs and it was just funny. So next time you're planning to go to any of these concerts, hit me up. I'll come with you.
Oh, I will.
You also mentioned you like musicals. I'm a big Broadway fan. Which is your favorite?
Oh my goodness. I would say all-time favorite, probably Rent. Even though it's a
Mhm.
sad musical, I would say Rent probably my favorite musical. I also love Book of Mormon. That's another top musical. Avenue Q. I love like that kind of dark, or not dark humor. I just like that type of humor. Um,
Nice. I love it. I live right across the street from the Pantages here in Hollywood. That's the Broadway in Hollywood, so to speak. So once the musicals are done in the New York City Broadway for the Bitch Besties out there, they travel around the country sometimes. And whenever they come to LA, a lot of them play here at the Pantages Theater, and it's literally across the street from me. So I can just walk there, which is nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And I recently went to see Aunt Juliet. Have you seen that one?
so funny you mentioned that. I just saw it twice. I know it's only in town for like a week, like a month and a half. I just saw it twice.
That's funny. I saw it twice too. I saw it once in New York City, actually, and now that it came to LA, I went with a girlfriend and we saw it again. I loved it so much. So for anybody who has the chance to go see it, if it's even still playing by the time this airs, but it's such a great musical. It has all the early 2K music, Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys, and it's just a good time, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it's the best. It's again nostalgic. It's like, and they do a really good job of weaving the songs into the storyline. And I remember the people I saw; they were incredible singers. So yeah, again, that's why I saw it twice in Los Angeles. It was that good.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Which one is your favorite festival? I've never been to any festival. So which one is your favorite? Which one would you recommend?
I would say so. I would recommend, but I would work up to it. So my favorite festival thus far has been EDC, Electric Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas, but it is a 3 day festival. So I would say for anybody that wants to try out festivals, start with a 1 day festival, 2 day festival, and work your way to a 3 day festival because 3 days is a lot. And
Yeah.
I would say throughout the 3 days, I slept probably about 10 hours all a weekend. So basically 3 hours per day, just because you're up all night. We did the sunrise set, so the festival ends at like 7 a.m. and then you go back, sleep for 3 hours, and you start all over again. So it's a lot. It's a marathon, I would say.
That's insane. Where do you sleep? Do you camp in like tents somewhere nearby, or how does it work?
Yeah, some people camp nearby, which is great, but Las Vegas is so hot. And for me, I'm not good with heat. So I want a hotel room. I want my own shower. So we stayed in downtown Las Vegas, which is like an hour away, not too far, but they had a nice shuttle process where you can get a shuttle pass and they'll shuttle you from the venue back to your hotel. So that way you don't have to worry about driving, anything like that.
Oh, interesting. See, that's why I was never like wanting to go to festivals. I hate the heat. I'm a sweater. I actually take medication so I sweat less because I'm an anxiety sweater for some reason. The doctor explained. I don't know what that means, but I sweat easily. So the idea of being somewhere in the desert with the dust and the sweat, I'm like, oh no, thank you. No band is worth it for me to go. But that's interesting that you say they have shuttles and they have hotels. So maybe I could consider that. That
Mhm.
sounds fun. That sounds more
Yeah.
like a glamping trip.
Yes. And I would say if you go, like, come with us, we'll take care of you. We'll have fans. We'll have like plenty of water. It's like I go with groups of people that just like they've been to these festivals a lot. And luckily, a lot of the festivals, the main acts happen at night. So at least it's like cooler at that point and it's less heat. Cause for me, I don't like baking in the sun. It drains my energy. So at least it's at night. And it's fun, it's pretty, there's lots of lights. It's just a really fun experience. And people are there nice. So it's nice to be around that type of environment.
That sounds amazing. And do you go all out with the outfits? And, sometimes they put little glitter stickers on your face and all that. Do you do that?
Glitter, everything. sometimes depends on the outfit. Sometimes like less clothes is better kind of thing. It's like you're just like going all types. It's fun. Yeah. So yes, to answer your question, yes.
I need to get in shape first.
Oh, you'll be fine.
That's funny. I love that. That sounds amazing. How many festivals have you visited yet?
I would say thus far probably 6 or 7
Oh,
festivals
wow.
in total. So not a ton, but it's only been like 2 to 3 years that I've been doing this.
Wow, amazing. I heard of that festival that would be right up our alley, I guess. I think it's called When We Were Young. Have you heard of that one? That's where Simple Plan and all those bands play, right?
Yes, I really want to go to that. I've heard tickets are hard to get, but yes, I
Mhm.
want to go to that.
Me too. I want to go. And tickets are also very expensive. They're like a couple $100s, right?
Oh, it's way too expensive nowadays.
Yeah. And then the hotel on top. And do you fly to Vegas? Do you drive out there?
A drive.
Oh,
Drive just because usually we bring all the alcohol with us just to
nice.
help save money. So it's like the whole trunk is just full of like alcohol just to not have to worry about that when we get there.
You and I, we should be besties by now.
Exactly. So exactly, come with us. We'll take care of you. We go.
I will. Man, that sounds amazing. I love that. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah.
All right, I want to shift gears a little bit, change the topic a little bit. As said, going into this episode, it's Labor Day, and we want to talk like work related stuff, especially since you're a recruiter. How long have you been a recruiter for?
I would say probably about 12 years now. I've been in human resources for close to 20 years, but as a recruiter, I would say about 12, 13 years at this time.
Wow. Is there a difference between a recruiter and a headhunter?
Yes. So there's a couple differences. I would say it depends on if you're in-house or external recruiting. So right now what I do is more agency, external recruiting. Some people might consider like headhunting, but we like to think of it more like that relationship building with candidates because we partner with not only companies and our clients, but also our candidates on kind of helping matchmake. I would say consider more like matchmaking versus headhunting. But I've also been on the other side, which is in-house recruiting. So that's when you recruit internally for a company. So you're specifically working with the company just to find talent for the company. So it's a very different environment, very different pace, I would say, but both very rewarding. Just because when you're in-house, you get to bring on new people, and as long as you love the company and you like where you're working, it's always nice and you could always like almost like bragging. You want to bring people in that you want to work with and kind of bring in new talent, new almost like friends potentially that you can work with. But then when you're working externally on the agency side, it's also very rewarding because again, you're helping people. Sometimes you can help change lives, by one job can change someone's life. Sometimes it's income, sometimes it's the career trajectory, sometimes people relocate for a position. So again, it could be life changing. So it's very rewarding to be on that journey with someone to help kind of
Mhm.
like partner with them and really just like listen to the candidate, know what they are looking for, know what the companies are looking for, and hopefully find that match and that synergy. That way it's like a good like marriage, in terms of like the working relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're really, really good at what you're doing. I really enjoyed working with you, which is why I asked you to come on the Judgy Bitch pod and share a little bit of your experience with us. You are so good. Like when we were working together, you always prepped me amazingly for any interviews I would go into. Just the things you did throughout the whole process was just incredible. Do you only work with the executive assistant side, which is what I'm doing? Which fields do you all cover?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for saying that. I really loved working with you as well, which is why we're still connected this
Yes.
day. But cheers to that.
Cheers.
So yes, I would say majority of the roles that, which is nice, is because the firm I work for, we specialize in a lot of executive assistants. So I would say 80% of the roles we tend to work on are executive assistant or very similar type positions. So if it's not executive assistant, it might be admin assistants, maybe executive assistant, personal assistant blends, receptionists, office managers, even HR professionals. So anything kind of in the admin HR realm, which is nice. So very specialized. It's nice because I've never personally been an executive assistant, but because I've helped recruit for so many executive assistants, like a lot of what executive assistants do, I understand. But versus if I were to recruit for an IT position, it'd be a little bit more difficult. I'm sure I could, but it'd be a little bit more difficult because the skills, the software, the language, and even just the things that people need, it's different. So I always like to think of myself as like not an expert by any means in terms of like all recruiting. Because if you were to ask me to recruit for a programmer, like a Python or C++ programmer, I'm sure some time, within time and training, I could, you know, learn how to do that. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I step in and do it right away. I think it's a very different skill set.
And that definitely shows. And I think that makes you better than a lot of other recruiters I met in my life is that you just have an understanding of it and you know what you're talking about. And you are really, because of that, because of your knowledge and expertise and experience, you know how to match company and the talent, and I think that shows very much. With that being said, do you see the market changing a little bit? I mean, right now it's the summertime, and I don't know if that's a thing that it just slows down over the summertime. But in general, with everything we're going through this year here in LA, I think you can only speak for LA. It might be different in other cities. But do you see the market changing a little bit? Are there more or less jobs out there? Is the salary going down? I have a feeling like the salary is going down. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I would say, okay, so let's be real. I would say it's been kind of a shitty job market, over the last few years. I would say 2022, so after pandemic, we all experienced the pandemic, but 2022 was an incredible job market for candidates and people
Okay.
looking for jobs. I think at that point, a lot of businesses, companies were opening up again. I feel like almost companies overhired because people had furloughed, laid off so many people during the pandemic that come 2022, when companies were really ready to ramp up and really open up again, they almost overhired. So it
Mhm.
was at the time, like, I feel like candidates were getting 2 to 3 offers really quickly and they had their choice of like what they wanted to do. Since then, 2023, 2024, and then this year, it's been very up and down. So it's still a decent job market, but there are still positions out there. People are still hiring, but companies are taking a lot longer to hire.
Mhm.
They're being very selective, I would say very picky in who they're looking for. In the past, I think companies were more flexible with some of the requirements. If someone, let's say, didn't have a degree, they were able to, but they had the experience, they were able to, move forward with that. They didn't have to necessarily come from a certain industry. So an entertainment company said, we're open to, finance candidates or nonprofit candidates. Now it's like people want very specific, like 10 years experience in financial services, working for a hedge fund or something very, very specific. So it's just been
Mhm.
a really, really tough job market. So I think for anybody out there who's currently looking, just be patient. It's like, it's so difficult. Looking for a job is a full-time job in itself. It's sometimes even harder than in full-time work. And it's just, I know it's like to be resilient and be patient, it's so difficult, but it's just almost like, no, it's not you. It's the
Mhm.
job market, really tough job market. And I know so many like incredibly qualified, incredibly capable and great candidates who maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they would have been hired right off the bat. But
Mhm.
now 6 months later, they're still actively out there looking and it's just taking time.
Crazy, yeah. And my experience is as an executive assistant, and I wonder if that applies to other job fields as well. A lot of those roles I see out there, they're technically admin positions disguised as executive assistant. So the title will be executive assistant, but the role description is a very junior level, just calendar management and travel booking and not much meat to the bone, to the speak. As an executive assistant, you would typically take on ad hoc projects. You're a real liaison between the executive and the team, and you do so much more than just the plain admin stuff. But because those roles are named executive assistant, but the job description is such a junior level, I would say, entry level position, the salaries are so low, which is very frustrating to me because I'm someone with 20 years plus years. I'm 25, but still I have 20 plus years of experience in that field, very round experience, as you know, as a project manager and even acting as the chief of staff. And I'm trying to apply for executive assistant positions, but not for that salary. I'm not okay as, a woman my age living on my own, OT with peanut. with such a low salary. Nobody can make a living out of it. And just to give an example and to bitch a little bit, because we're the judgy bitch pod here. Sometimes I have recruiters reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm not sure if that's scam or if those are actual job descriptions, but they use namely companies of the entertainment and beauty industry. And they reach out to me, they reference my resume or my experience. They're like, oh, we're looking for your 20 years experience, including project management experience, blah, blah, blah. And then I ask them for the salary range and and here, you might need a drink for that. And then they tell me 48,000 a year. 48,000. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I can make more money at McDonald's and I don't need no experience. I have 20 plus years of experience. Like, that's insulting. Do you see those things too? And do you believe that companies or recruiters or whoever put out those job descriptions using the wrong title, are they messing up the market? Are they bringing down the overall salary for executive assistants by not using the proper title?
That's such a good question. So I don't think I have the answer necessarily to that, but my own opinion or thoughts around that. I do
Go
feel
for it.
like a lot companies probably overuse the executive assistant title. I think a lot of people use that almost like as a blanket title. And as you know, there are so many different levels within being an assistant. So there are, for instance, like I know in certain companies they'll have an administrative assistant role because you're maybe providing like more like light admin support to an overall team. It's less of that one-on-one, one-on-two support to a high-level executive. You're supporting more like analysts and associates within a department, and you're just helping with general phone coverage and maybe scheduling meetings. And it's less of that partnership, that strategic business partnership with the person the executives are supporting. And then from there, usually you'll see like junior executive assistants or senior admin assistants. And then from there, executive assistants, senior EAs. And then some companies use various different titles. They don't even use the EA title. They use a whole different role, but it might be an executive assistant role, but they use a whole different title. So I
Yeah.
do feel like a lot of companies tend nowadays to gravitate towards just using executive assistant because it sounds, maybe it just sounds sexier, to the market,
Yeah.
and like attracts a lot more candidates. But to your point, I will say like certain industries like fashion or entertainment, the 48K, that is so low. That's like way too low. But I will say like some of the other industries, they do pay really. I've been shocked. I mean, the last time I was actively looking for a position was many, many years ago. But I just remember when I was like actively looking, I did interview with some of the big fashion companies and I almost felt insulted when they gave me the offer. I mean, I should have known going into it, but by the time I got the offer, I was like, I can't live off of this salary. I need
Mm.
two of these salaries to survive by myself in Los Angeles. So yeah, I do feel like they do overuse that EA title.
Yeah, and that's crazy, especially here in LA with all those entertainment companies. I don't know if it's an industry kind of thing, but entertainment seems to be paying very low. I came from New York City, so I know a little bit of the New York City market. I know when I moved out here, I took a 35K cut doing the same job, same industry, everything, just by moving to LA. Meanwhile, the cost of living is just as expensive as in New York City, if not even more expensive. I think LA and New York City, they switch roles. Who's the top one city in the country that's most expensive? I think it goes back and forth between those two cities. So pretty much the same. It's just insane. And especially entertainment industry, it honestly pisses me off when you think about it, right? Like when you think of the movie industry, right? The stars make so much money and even the higher executives in those companies, they make so much money. They take home millions of dollars. And then they have an executive assistant whom they all will tell you, I couldn't do my job without my executive assistant. They're my right hand. They're the second most important woman in my life. And then they pay you under 100K and you can't even afford your apartment off of it. It's a shame. And I really want to call out those companies. And it just, it's the judgy bitch pot. So this is what I do.
Yep.
I really hate it. And I feel like there should be regulations around it. I don't know how much influence we would have on politics or anything. And, the rich people obviously make the politics or the ones who carry them the most. So they're probably not open to that. But I almost feel like within the companies, there should be like a cap of how much the top people can make as compared to the ratio of how much the lower people can make. And we can go much deeper into this topic and I don't want to make it political. So let's come back to the judgy bitch pot here. Um, Do you think with the next generation of leadership moving in that things will change a little bit? I mean, the boomers, they should slowly start thinking about retirement, and then the next generation should move up. Do you think that will bring a lot of change? How companies work and how the hiring process will look like and all that?
I hope so. I hope so. I truly hope so. But it's hard to say because I think with the recruiting process, just to touch on that a little bit, I
Mhm.
think with since COVID and with the advancement of technology, what I've noticed is, I mean, I you probably know this well because you've interviewed yourself, when we work together as a candidate, as you as a candidate, but like companies are doing like 6 to 7 rounds of interviews nowadays versus in the past. I mean, I remember 15 years ago when I was actively interviewing, it would be 2 rounds, maybe three tops of interviews. But
Yeah.
because of the way people are doing interviews now, like Zoom, like Microsoft Teams, those are all great to have. But because companies rely on that so much now, instead of consolidating, and in the past it used to be like you do maybe a phone screen as a first round, then you're invited to go into the company for an on-site interview. So then you meet with like multiple people at the same time because you're there in
Yeah.
person. But now it's like they'll do 7 rounds of interviews. You're still meeting with the same amount of people, but it's like one at a time, and it just takes so much longer. I sure hope so that, things will change, with the next generation moving into leadership, but
Mhm.
it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is very hard to say. But you know what? I had a friend recently who interviewed here in LA, and they put her through 9 rounds of interviews, 9 rounds, some on Zoom, some in person. And then at the end, they told her, sorry, we changed our mind. We are hiring somebody from internal. That is so freaking frustrating. Companies out there, stop fucking doing this. Seriously, we're sick of you guys. Stop it. And then also the other change I see in the market right now is a lot of companies call people back into the office. They're shying away from not only remote positions, but also from the hybrid model. Do you see that too? Is that happening?
Yes, and it's such a shame because during the pandemic, I feel like with companies when they didn't lay off people and they still have people actively working, it was almost like proof of concept that people are able to work very effectively fully remote. And yes, I see the advantage. I see like the pros and cons of both sides. Like there are benefits to being in person, that there's a level of kind of interaction in that like social aspect where you can't sometimes get, when you're all working siloed individually, but it was still proof that in some roles you're still able to work just as well. And for some people, like for me, I'm very introverted. So for me, I work really well on my own. Like I love collaboration. I love working with people too, but I work best. If you were to ask me like, how do you work best? I would say by myself. I can definitely work with people. I love working with people, but I work best by myself. That's when my all the juices are flowing. That's when everything is like all cylinders are firing in my brain. So it's such a shame because like you're correct. I see the trend over the last year is we see a lot of companies they're transitioning more to, if not fully in office, 4 days a week in office, or there are still companies that are having the 3 days in office, 2 days remote, and that's like a if you're working for one of those companies, that's a really like rare thing now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, it's kind of a shame that almost companies are moving backwards. Like they've
Exactly.
seen that it was possible to, work remotely, but then now they're like, oh, we're just gearing up towards working back in office, which is why going to a previous point that you had about the next generation, I'm really hopeful that the next generation, when they move up to leadership, they'll kind of transition back to that, hybrid where there's flexibility. Like maybe it is that company policy is to work mostly in office, but people have a lot more flexibility to work their own flexible schedules just because they kind of get it. They've done it before. They know what's possible. I feel like with the other generations that are still in leadership, I think they're the ones really pushing that agenda to go back in office because they like they're used to the whole fully in office, FaceTime, one on one, seeing someone there, even if they're not needed to work, they just want to see someone physically there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And what do you think that is? Do you think it's just a control thing and the boomer generation thinking when we're working from home, all we do is watch Netflix and we don't work? And they want us in the office so they can control us? In my opinion, somebody who doesn't work from home will also not work from the office. You know, you always find a way to not work in the office. You can chit chat, you can, use longer bathroom breaks or lunch breaks or whatever, right? So you always can find a way. And then also, I wanted to say something else and I lost my train of thought right now. But do you think it's just, oh, yeah, the conspiracy theories? I hear when I talk with a lot of people about that, and I ask a lot of people for their opinions why it is that companies want people back in the offices if it's just a control thing. And I hear a lot of conspiracy theories that say, well, maybe it also has to do with the bigger picture. For example, the oil industry. If people work from home, they're not driving their cars as much, so they don't need as much gas. They don't need as much maintenance and tires. If companies have a hybrid or remote schedule or model for their work, then they don't need those big real estates anymore. The real estate market might crash. And there's so many things when you really think about it that go into it. What, from your personal opinion, is it that companies want people back in the office? What do you think?
I've never thought of that whole conspiracy, those theories, but it kind of makes sense. I could see it. I could see maybe government being involved, like really pushing and like the lobbyists, like big business to, not let, because you're right. If people are not in office as much, real estate suffers a lot of times because
Mhm.
leases, people not needing to have office space. So that definitely can have a difference. And oil, you mentioned that, like gas piece, I could see that happening. I feel my personal opinion, I think it's more of a control piece because I could see it's hard because it's like you'd want to have that trust in your team, as a leader. Let's say if I were a leader, I would hope I would have that trust in my team that, they're getting their shit done. Like that the most important thing isn't, oh, are you working 12, 16 hours a day? It's more like if you could get all the work done in 4 hours in a day, like all the power to you. Like just
Right.
get it done. So that's what's most important. Like let's work smarter, not harder necessarily. So I feel like with the let's say the older generations who are still in leadership roles, I feel like in the past, when they to get ahead, it was more about who was staying to midnight, who was staying really late, who was like showing up and like just always being there, and like canceling personal plans for work, and like making sacrifices. It was like that type of mentality. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's they're still trying to instill in the workplace is that whole to get ahead, to get promoted. I want to see people who are making sacrifices, who are staying in late at the office because that's what they respect. Versus, I think the other generations nowadays, it's a whole different philosophy of kind of
Yeah.
what they value. And I think like for example, like what I value is less of it's more time. Like so I don't like live to work necessarily. I work to live because I
Yeah.
like to I like I work hard just because I want to be able to afford to go to these festivals and to feel good when I'm at the festivals. Okay, yes, the festivals can be a couple $100, but I worked hard and this is my time to enjoy. So I feel like I value the time like with people too in like family. And the last thing I want right now in my life is I feel like I'm at the stage where I don't want to have to sacrifice my personal life. Like I don't want to have to like miss birthday parties because of work. Like I it's definitely sacrifices here and there, but not consistently.
I agree with you. Cheers to that.
Yeah.
100%. Mm. Yeah, that's definitely, in my opinion, a generational thing. And I think the mindset has changed so much from the work mentality of working 12, 14 hours and you're just grinding, grinding, grinding. But is your output actually better than somebody who only works 8 hours? That's also questionable, right? And I think work-life balance is a real thing that our generation is looking for. We don't want to work 12, 14 hours. And as you said, we work for a living and we don't live for working. That's such a good way to put it. I 100% agree with that. Um, and then also I was going to say, wait, I lost my train of thought again. I shouldn't be drinking while I'm recording this podcast. But coming back to the titles again, how much influence do you have on creating those job descriptions? Do the companies ask you for advice too and come up with titles and the salary range from your expertise? And do you help them create those job descriptions you put out?
Sometimes I would say maybe 40% of the time we have some influence or some help. Just depends on the company or the client. Because if we work with a large corporation, like a big Fortune 500 company, a lot of times they don't need our advice on salary, because
Yeah.
they have their own salary brackets. They have compensation teams that determine and approve a certain salary bracket. So we don't have much influence over that. And titles, usually those are like embedded, set in stone, because they maybe have like 50 people in the same role. So they have their own structure. So less of the big companies, but the smaller, like maybe like 10 to 20-person companies that, work with us. Yes, they do sometimes ask for our input, like especially with compensation bands. So we could help let them know what the current market is, what we're seeing. And then we can it's a really nice partnership because we could kind of, tell them, okay, if you're looking for this type of candidate, if you're open to someone who is a newer grad, 1 to 2 years of like maybe work experience, and you're willing to train them, then, maybe you could pay this range because, you're going to be attracting this junior candidate. But if you really need someone to hit the ground running, no training involved, just like a plug and play type of person, then you're going to have to pay this bracket, or like it's going to be, the titles will be different too. So
Mhm.
sometimes that's the nice thing. Some of our companies that we work with, they'll kind of come to us and ask, okay, so, and we'll listen to them, see like, what's the real need? What are you missing? What's the void right now? And if the need is, we'll maybe say like, actually, it sounds like you need a senior executive assistant. So in this case, you're gonna have to pay this kind of dollar amount. Or if we say like, actually, it sounds like you don't need someone that's that strategic level. You need someone more like an office assistant, someone to just like do standard office maintenance, things like that. So then you could pay this round or this
Mhm.
range because that's kind of what the market is looking for. So yes, I would say the smaller companies, we have a lot more of the help. We could help with job descriptions. Sometimes companies come to us and they don't have anything. They'll just tell us. And a lot of times we'll do those intake calls where we listen to them. And from there, we're just like, I'm like jotting down notes like crazy,
Yeah.
and basically there I could craft a job description for them because I'm just taking down all the tidbits of what they're saying, what they need someone to do.
I love that. I love that you're helping them so much. And that also helps us as candidates, because then the right roles are out there for the right salary range. And it's not like what I said earlier, what I experienced, that there's roles disguised as something else with a way lower salary, although they're looking for this and that. And now I remembered my train of thought from earlier. With the flexibility in your work life, I also feel, because you touched on it, you said, if somebody can get their work done in 4 hours, I feel like we all have this mentality of looking for a purpose in our daily work. So if your work really only encompasses 4 hours a day, I feel like a lot of us would ask for more work and say, this doesn't fulfill me. Can I pick on it? Extra projects or extra executives or whatever, right? And on the other hand, I feel like we're all adults. If I'm done after 6 hours with my work, my executive doesn't need me. Why am I sitting there for another 2 hours and waiting for time to go by? Why can I not make the executive, pun intended, executive decision to go home? Why do I have to sit there like I'm in kindergarten and or in school and have to wait for the bell to ring until I can drop my pen and go home? You know, so I wish with the new generation moving in, I hope these kind of things change a little bit. But I'm also afraid of there's always this asshole out there who abuses the system and who ruins it for everybody. And yeah, so I don't have a solution. This is just my thoughts on it, being judgy bitch, which I like being.
I love that. Yeah. And I agree. I hope it does change in the future. I'm really hoping that the next generations moving into leadership, they'll kind of remember like, okay, this is like people could just get their shit done. That's what's most important. And like for me, I know personally, I know everyone's different. For me personally, my productivity, I could give a full 4 to 6 hours dedicated, and I am like, I could rock it. But after 6 hours, my brain is like starting to like not it's like just nothing's firing anymore. So it's like everything's sluggish. My output's not going to be as strong. So the nice thing about like the team that I currently work with is there's a lot of understanding of flexibility, because a lot of the people I work with, they have children, so sometimes they have to do drop off pickups, and we're all
Yeah.
really like good about covering for each other, and we all have understanding of like we all have outside lives outside of work. So what's really nice is because I don't have children, I don't have a dog, so I don't have my own like furry kid right now. What's nice is like if I can work a solid like 6, maybe 8 hours, let's say I don't finish all my work during that time frame. Sometimes I'll take a break. I'll go do a workout class, reset my mind, come back, and then I'll finish up for like another hour or two. And yes, maybe it's like I'm working a little bit more, but again, that reset is so important because then I'm not just like grinding. I'm not just like, and I feel like okay, at least have a break. I feel like I get some fresh air, see some sunlight, like get an
Yeah.
energy drink, and then yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm like able to like crank it out again. So I love that. Again, I'm hopeful that the next generation moving to leadership can remember that or recognize that people do have outside lives, and the more you respect and almost like promote that they have outside endeavors and outside things that they're passionate about, the better that they'll give back to their work because they'll actually care, and it's almost like they'll want. I'm thinking people will like intrinsically will want to work hard for the company because if the company treats them so well, then they'll be like, okay, yeah, of course I want to like give what I can. Maybe not my 100% all because I do have a life,
Yeah.
and I want have things I care about, but I'll do more than just like the bare minimum.
I
Like I'll
agree with
actually.
you. Yeah, I agree 100%. And you touched on the furry friends because, I'm a doggy mom. My doggy's name is Peanut. He is my only child and my everything. And I literally birthed him. No, I did not. But you know what I mean? Like, he is so important to me. If there was more flexibility, not only around my schedule, that because right now he stays home for whenever I'm in the office. I unfortunately don't even have a dog walker right now. So poor Peanut sits home. So guess what? As soon as my time is up, I literally drop everything because I'm running home to Peanut. He's waiting for me. He needs to go outside, right? So the company loses my flexibility of at least finishing up what I was just doing because I'm like, nope, Peanut is waiting. Got to get out of here. If there was even flexibility of bringing the dog to work, with some dogs, it's possible they're well enough behaved, right? And they don't disturb anybody. But even that is missing. Some companies I know do that, but unfortunately not all of them. So companies, if you hear me out there, let me bring Peanut to work.
Yes, all companies out there, let's implement a policy. I know there's liability, there's things like that, but yes, let's figure out a way where our furry friends can come into the office. Because to be honest, between you, your listeners, everyone, I love like dogs and the cats even. Like I love our
Yeah.
furry friends more than humans for the most part. So
Yeah.
let's get them. They're so important to our lives.
And even around childcare, I remember I used to work for a lady CMO. I loved her so much. She was incredible. But she told me when she first started her career, obviously as a woman, you sometimes have to work even harder than a man does, right? To get the acknowledgement. So, and she had little kids. And that's, sometimes in the way of being ambitious and making your career because the kids get sick and who typically stays home with the sick kids? It's the mom, right? So, she told me stories where she ended up bringing her sick kid to work and she built like a little fort under her desk and the kid was sleeping while she was in meetings, above the desk. And even in that sense, if there was more flexibilities, even for the real parents with children out there, or that you do have the flexibility of more working from home on those days where your kids are sick. And I just wish the workforce would change a little bit in that sense and treat us as adults and give us the flexibilities. And those assholes who abuse the system, get rid of them. You really don't want poison in your company, and maybe then they will learn eventually.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think you said a point that resonates with me right now. It's the whole we're all adults here. You should trust your employees and your staff because the whole mentality of like this clock in, clock out mentality is like if my work is done and I'm just sitting waiting for the bell to ring, that's such an elementary school, or like early grade school type of mentality, and like you're not going to get respect out of your staff if you treat them like children.
Yeah.
Where you have this, it's like if you the more you can have that partnership with the people and you instill trust and like respect with them and just like know that it's like you're going to get the output back like tenfold
Yeah.
because they'll actually care and they'll actually want to do a good job for you. So it's like you'll have a better teammate, a team member overall because they'll actually want to do a good job instead of like I'm just doing the bare minimum just to keep my paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, there's different leadership styles, and also people need different leadership to do their jobs, right? Like we could go into this whole micromanaging type of thing and all that. But I want to talk to you and get your advice a little bit, pick your brain on the whole application process. So for the bitch besties out there who are currently in the market to look for a new job, now we have ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my best friend. I named him David because ChatGPT is such a mouthful, and I asked David everything and anything. Would you recommend using David to create your resume, or can you see right through it when you get a resume on your desk and you're like, bitch, you did not write that?
First of all, I love that you've named ChatGPT David. It's like Alexa or Siri. So I love that, first of all. By the way, does David have like an accent? Is David like Australian or British or just
Ooh,
David?
you're giving me ideas. He might.
So, okay, so ChatGPT, I think AI is in a way here to stay. So I think the more we can embrace and kind of work with it, the better. I think you are correct. I think a lot of recruiters can see through if something is completely created using AI or ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT is a great tool to use and as a resource, especially if, let's say, you don't have a resume at all. It's not like you have to take a resume and like revise it. Let's say you don't have a resume, you just start from scratch. To me, it's a very daunting task to have to do.
Yeah.
So using something like a chat GPT or another AI feature to at least create the framework or create a shell, asking them like, please write me a resume or a job description for this type of role. And then taking that and then revising it and creating it in your own voice, in your own words, that I think is great because then ultimately you're going to produce still your product, but at least you have someone to help kind of give you the framework or the template to work off of. Because I think, again, a lot of times starting anything from scratch is very daunting. It's a very difficult task. And it's almost like, where do I start? What do I do for the beginning? But using something like AI to even like organize your thoughts, a lot of times I'll like put in a budget, like scribble notes and things like that. And then to say like I'll say ChatGPT, like, please organize this in like a cohesive thought for me. And it'll do a great job of just like consolidating, making everything like, oh, that sounds great. And then I'll go through and I'll revise it. I'll edit it because a lot of times ChatGPT, they'll make like David will say something. I was like, that's not even how I would ever say it. So if you were to meet me, you'd be like, bitch, this is not you. This is not how you speak. So I'd say still, use it to start with, but then use it to help you, but then still review it, still tailor it. And you want to customize it that way. It's your own voice because that is what's most important, that it's your product at the very end of the day. Someone could help create it for you, but then you're the one that ultimately like edits it and put out, your voice out there.
Right. Yeah. Being authentic, I think, is the word you're looking for in that sense, right? Yeah. And David recently gave me great advice. What is your opinion on this? So, when applying for a job that is not your most recent experience, David said you can change the order in your resume to bring on top the experience that matches most the job you're applying for. As long as you have the dates stated next to the jobs, and the company can go through and see there is no missing pieces in your resume, it's okay to change the order because everybody who will get your resume on their desk, they will start reading from the top. And if the first experience you had doesn't match what they're looking for, they might stop reading right then and there because they think you're not a match. So by bringing up an older experience that matches more the job description, you keep yourself better in the game. Would you agree with that?
Personally, I 100% agree with that. I think anytime you apply to any role, you're, again, like you mentioned, really important, as long as it's accurate, like never embellish, never falsify dates, like as long as everything is always accurate, I think it's completely fine to reorder the resume and shift things around. For example, sometimes you might find out that one company, they value education as their top and foremost. So if let's say you went to an Ivy League or you went to an amazing university, then sometimes you could even put that first because then it highlights, that it's like that gold star that you want. You basically want to grab someone's attention and keep that attention because I think what's most important to know is a lot of times recruiters, people think each resume recruiters are looking at it for like minutes. They're really looking at it for like 30 seconds or less,
Right.
sometimes less. 10 to 15 seconds. So, and you're right, you kind of start at the top and you kind of just glance down. So you want to like capture someone's attention and then have them continue reading, and looking at the different parts. But a lot of times people are just looking at like the companies, the titles, and a few of the top bullet points. So even within that, with each company and each experience, ordering the bullet points to almost like tailor it towards the position, I think is important because if a company, if let's say a role, let's say as an executive assistant, if one company, the most important thing is someone who has booked like heavy international travel, then that's probably one of the first bullet points you want to highlight. Maybe not the first, but like towards the top. You don't want to bury it towards the bottom because you want them to like, you want to grab their attention. So I think, yeah, absolutely fine. I think it's a great idea to reorder the resume depending on what the role is, as long as all the information, like as you mentioned, is accurate.
Right. Thank you for giving your feedback on this. And you just mentioned to not embellish your experience. If you don't have the experience, don't put it in. But how do you apply up? Let's say I'm an executive assistant now. What if I wanted to become a chief of staff? I never had the title chief of staff. Normally the job descriptions requires at least 2 to 5 years of experience. I don't have that. So what can I do to apply to the next step in my career? Do you have advice for that too?
Two thoughts. The first one is the more chief of staff type responsibilities that you could pull out from your current position, I'd say add that in. So a lot of times, chief of staff they'll be more involved with the business, with the strategy. So the more, as long as again it's accurate, the more you could pull out of your current position and add that in, and even put it towards the top of the resume or the top of your current experience, the better, because then it kind of highlights that okay, it seems like this person may not have the chief of staff title, but they're kind of ready for that next level because they're already doing a lot of the strategic work, the higher level work that would warrant a chief of staff. Another thought is sometimes I think summaries are like iffy. Sometimes I've seen summaries and it's like actually a detriment to someone's resume. But sometimes in that case, if you are, let's say, a senior executive assistant and you really want that next level, putting that highlighting as like a career summary or at the very top of the page so someone knows you're currently like a 20 plus year executive assistant, have done all this experience, ready for your next like upward move as a chief
Mhm.
of staff. Like saying this is what you want to achieve. I think that could be a part that could be helpful. Again, summaries, I think be careful with that because with a lot of people, if they put the hardest, when I say detriment, is because I've seen some people that they'll say in their summaries, they'll apply to an executive assistant role and they'll say like, I'm looking for my next marketing position, or like a
Yeah.
social media analyst. I'm like, okay, come on. You're like, this is not even like relevant. So to me, that's almost like an automatically like delete, like
Yeah.
I'm not consider you because, you know, like attention to detail, first of all. But second of all, it's like, I don't think you want this role. So I think just be careful with these summaries. But I think that's a way someone could like, if they want to become a chief of staff, they can highlight that.
Yeah. And I'd be like, bitch, you're dumb.
Exactly. It's like, okay, come on. Come on now.
Yeah. You mentioned that sometimes you only spend seconds or a few minutes on resumes. What is a good tip to stand out? What could we do to have like that resume that will catch your eye a little bit? And twofold for this question. The other part of it is, should our LinkedIn always match our resumes in the same approach, or is this a complete different thing? How important is your LinkedIn profile?
I think LinkedIn is really important depending on the industry and depending on the type of role. I think for executive assistants or similar type roles, I think anything in the corporate professional setting, I think LinkedIn is really important because I think a lot of companies, when they see resumes, before they even consider whether they want to interview someone, they'll actually pull up LinkedIn profile. So one, having a professional picture, it doesn't have to be a glam shot, but it should be a good it should be a picture that you're proud of, that you would be comfortable, having people like you'd be like happy to have someone see. So I think having that consistency in LinkedIn, having that match up your resume, I think is important. And the second part with the resume itself, I think, yeah, I do feel like having the resume to stand out, cleaner it is. And by cleaner, I mean like 1 to 2 pages. It depends on the role. Again, like I have a programmer friend, and for those resumes, they're like 3 to 4 pages. That's like the standard.
Mhm.
But whatever the standard is, try to keep it as clean as possible. Again, highlight everything towards the top, like top first half. Like if it's with 1 page or 2 pages, like the first half of the page should be like the things that you're most proud of, that you want to grab someone's attention. So
Mhm.
if you work a huge company that has a great like name brand, like grab, and you want them to recognize that, like grab their attention with that. But the cleaner it looks, the more you can kind of make it less messy, the better. Because again, people are like, they're not going to want to sift through and look through all the data. They want to just like like when I look at resumes, sometimes I'm just like I pull it up, and if it looks like a hot mess at the very beginning, I kind of it's like almost a turn off at the very beginning. So instead of 30 seconds, I might spend 10 seconds of time.
Right.
So I would say for the tips, like make it very clean, make it very like polished, like where something that you'd be happy to have printed out and like shared on your social media.
Hmm. That makes total sense. Thank you. And as I said earlier, you do such a great job in prepping candidates to go into interviews when they're shortlisted to go into interviews. What is something you would tell your candidates to be prepared for this interview? How can you prepare for interviews?
I'd say definitely, and this is something you can use David for. So use something like David to research the company. So really do the homework. Do take the time. I sometimes even if it's like a quick first round 15-minute phone screen that you're like, oh, it's a quick 15-minute phone screen. I don't need to spend much time with it. I'd say just like at least use David or use something like that, a resource to at least do the research, know the company, know what they do, read the job description, know what the role is, and at least come with a couple, like one or two questions. And try to have the questions be a little bit more substantive, where it's like, you could even as simple as like asking the person what they're looking for in the right person, and what's most important in this role. What are some, potential pitfalls I could see, that hasn't worked with prior people in the role, just to show that you actually care, that you are always prepared with a question or two. I think that's important. But just coming prepared, doing the research, knowing the role, the company, not talking about, I would say, first round interviews, not talking about salary or benefits right off the bat. Definitely, those are really important things that you should discuss at some stage of the process, but not leading with that, at least as a first round, unless asked, because then you don't want to seem like you're only money driven or you only care about all these other aspects. You still want to showcase that you're there for the position. And then, of course, you'll fold in the other elements that are important to you throughout the conversations.
It's all very great advice that you're sharing with the Bitch Besties. I appreciate that. Thank you. But also, people sometimes forget that the interview process is a two-way street, right? It's not only the company interviewing you as a candidate, but also you as a candidate want to make sure that this is the company you want to work for, that the environment is correct, the people, the personalities, as far as you get to meet them in the interview process, align with what you're looking for. And you don't want to end up in a situation where you're uncomfortable, or what's the better word to use? I don't know. The environment is just not what you're looking for, right? So everybody out there, make sure you also prepare questions for you to get to know that company you are potentially going to work for. And we have to come to an end here. We're way over time already, and I could talk to you for hours. But what is one advice you wish candidates would always take from you?
I think in thinking, okay, so that's a great question. I think the biggest thing to stand out as a candidate is to remember to be kind and humble at the end of the day, because I think that definitely goes a long way, in so many ways, in so many different ways. Because let's say you're working with an agency, a recruiter. Let's say you're working with human resources internally, or even your own network. I think that kindness and that graciousness that you have and that humility goes a long way, because then people will want to vouch for you. People will want to like help you. People want to hire you in those cases. Even if they're not the hiring manager, they'll go to the hiring manager and say like, because sometimes the hiring manager will ask the recruiters to say like, okay, I'm torn between these three candidates. What are your thoughts? And
Mhm.
then the recruiter who's been partnering with you throughout this whole process, if you're able to say like, actually, they're all three great candidates, but I really like working with Melly. Like she's like been a joy to work with. Like she's so kind, like grateful, like things like that go a long way. Because then again, every little bit helps. I think honestly, if you're a bitch in a bad way,
Right.
um, for the recruiting process, that actually that's not a good thing, because I mean, I know it's such a tough process and people get frustrated, and I get that. That you should definitely feel frustrated if throughout the process, but don't take it out on the people that are trying to help you get the job. Like just be kind, and the more you can be just gracious throughout the process, I think that does go a long way. Because a lot of times what'll happen is, let's say you go through 6 rounds with a company and ultimately they go with someone internal, like you mentioned. So it's like, oh, it's like such a shitty situation, you know,
Yeah.
like you're so upset. But if you end the conversation with the recruiter, say like, oh, thank you for so much for letting me know. I really appreciate all your help throughout this process. Totally understand. Would love to stay connected in case there's anything in the future. Like, would love to hopefully have the chance to work with you. That goes a long way because 2 months from now, if you're still actively looking and they have another opening, maybe it's even a better position. You're the first person they're going to think of because
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh, at the end of the day, I really want to hire Melly. She was like my person. I'm so disappointed that we went with that internal candidate. So you'll be the first one at the top of the shortlist. Not even a shortlist. Maybe they'll just go with you because
Right.
they'll be like they'll think of you and they'll want to get you back. So I say, as frustrating as the process go, one thing I think all candidates can benefit from is the more kind you are to everyone throughout the process and gracious and just like understanding, the better. Because then ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not burning bridges. You don't leave anybody with a bad taste in their mouth. People well, it's almost like they'll feel bad that like it didn't work out. So they'll want to like hope that there's a chance to make it work in the future.
Yeah, that's super great advice. I love that. Bitch besties, did you hear that? Leave the bitch side at home.
Be efficient, but in a good way.
Yes.
Yeah.
As mentioned, we have to wrap up, unfortunately, but it is tradition on the Judgy Bit pod to play games at the end. Do you still have 2 minutes to play some games?
Would love to.
Let's do it. First game is called Vacation Confessions. So I mention things to you and you choose which one you would pick. It's kind of like a this or that situation. So first one is window or aisle.
ILC.
Okay. Why?
100% because I have a small bladder. So I'll just be real with you. I love the independence of being able to use the bathroom anytime I want. Also, I've learned a tip from people that travel a lot that sometimes if you're in the aisle seat, you can have more freedom to like exit and go to the back, where the flight attendants are. And if you're kind to them, again, that kindness piece, if you're kind to them and just ask like, hey, are there any snacks that are for free or things like that? Sometimes they'll just hook you up. So, and like sometimes you go to the bathroom and then you'll just make small talk, like ask them how their day is going, like how, just be kind to them. Sometimes you could like actually get some free drinks and some free snacks. Or I've had a case where I was really friendly with the flight attendant and I ordered a drink, so I paid for my drink, but she ended up giving me 2 extra
I
drinks,
love
just like
that.
slid it in. So I'd say absolute aisle drink or aisle seat.
Oh, seat. I love that. See, always pick the window seat because I think maybe I can sleep and then I can lean against the window. But now that you mentioned free drinks, bitch, I better get the aisle seat next time. All right, next one is packing light or overpacking.
Packing light.
Okay. Hotel or Airbnb.
Hotel.
Okay. Plan every detail or go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Love it. Street food or fancy restaurant.
Street food all the way.
Ooh. Souvenirs or just memories.
Memories.
Love it. You take a lot of pictures when you're on vacation?
Actually, I don't. It's more like memories like internally in my mind. I do take some pictures, but I rely on people that I travel with. They take pictures and then they'll send it to me.
We make the perfect couple. I take a million pictures. Pictures the world
Oh,
will need. Poolside chill or adventure excursions.
poolside chill, 100%.
I love that. Window seat hogger or armrest thief. Which is worse?
Wait, repeat that again.
Window seat hogger or armrest thief.
Thief. Armrest thief.
I would agree too. Lose your luggage or miss your flight. Pick your poison.
Oh my goodness. Well, I will say lose my luggage because you mentioned I pack light.
Yeah,
So I never check in a luggage. I try never to check in luggage.
interesting. See, that's a good advice too. Would you rather get a Bali belly or a wicked sunburn?
Wicked sunburn.
Keep that figure. Overpack like a diva or rewear the same outfit all trip?
So I'm kind of gross. I do the rewear that same outfit.
I don't think that's gross. As long as it's smelly or dirty, why not? I'm honestly a clothes hoarder. Like I have clothes from like 10 years ago that I still wear. And luckily, although my figure has changed so much, it still somehow fits.
I love that.
You said no photos. So next game is resume red flag or green flag. So talking about the resumes again. First one is candidate lists Microsoft Office as their top skill now in 2025.
Let's say green flag.
Right? Next one is
Yeah.
cover letter starts with to whom it may concern.
Ugh, red flag.
What should the cover letter start with?
Well, hey, this is personal opinion. I don't think people need cover letters anymore, unless some companies ask for it, and that's
Yeah.
great. I think cover letter to me, I think it's so outdated, so archaic. It's like I'm like, bitch, I'm applying to this role. So like, the cover letter is like, I want to apply to this role. So the resume should speak for itself. But
Right.
I cover letters to me, I think they're outdated. I think they're silly. I get if a company wants someone to explain or provide some sort of like write up of some sort, but like a prompt. But just a cover letter, like the cover letter is basically saying like, "Bitch, I'm applying to your role because I'm interested. I
Right.
want this job." You know?
Exactly. Plus, in 2025, I mean, 99% of the cover letters are written by David, right? Like, who are we kidding?
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. Let me see. Next one. Resume has a headshot, but it's a selfie with their dog.
I think that's a green flag. I like headshots and things like that, and especially for creative. If you're going for a creative role, I think the headshot's fine. If you're going for a corporate professional role, I say probably leave the headshot off.
In Germany, it's very common to include a professional headshot in your resumes. I know here in America, it's not so much needed, but you do have, as you said earlier, your headshot in your LinkedIn profile, right? Next one page resume, but font size 8 and no white space,
I'm gonna say red flag.
right? You can read it.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna have to microscope it or like zoom in.
Yeah. Are you a Bravo fan? Do you watch any Bravo reality TV shows?
So not as much anymore. I used to be obsessed with Real Housewives Orange County, like OG. Like I
Yeah.
watched season two. Like so I used to be like into that Beverly Hills. I'm not as caught up anymore. But yes, still a little. I still have a soft spot for Bravo in general.
Love it. I'm a Bravo bitch. So next question is lists Vanderpump Rules super fan under special skills.
Red flag. Depends on the role. Depends on the role. Corporate professional role, I would say red flag. Creative position, like entertainment, I say green flag.
Yeah, if you're applying to Vanderpump Rules, you better want to
Oh yeah.
learn it. References Andy Cohen as professional mentor.
Well, I'm torn. So I have a crush on Andy Cohen, so that's I'm torn. I'm gonna say a green flag.
Love it. Lists expert in stirring the pot as a strength.
Oh, red flag.
If I saw a resume that said that, I would crack up. I would literally like, bitch, I'm going to frame this. This is awesome. Last one for this game is cover letter closes with tell me you want to hire me without telling me you want to hire me.
Honestly, I'm gonna say green flag because you're gonna write a cover letter first of all and end with that. That's unique and that's creative. So I'm gonna give you props for that.
No, seriously, bitch, you're a queen. I bow to you.
Yeah, that's not something that David would create. So I would give you props for
Yeah,
that.
100%. Last game before I let you go is Festival Survival Kit. So name 3 things you think are absolutely needed to survive a festival.
Ibuprofen. Okay, ibuprofen. Oh my goodness, water. Like your own, not just water, liquid IV.
Love it.
So the liquid IV packet. So definitely that ibuprofen, and it sounds silly, but like a really good core group of people that you trust,
Yes.
that you'll have a good time with, that are low drama,
And
that you can bitchy with, who are not bitches.
and who will bring you home if you're blackout drunk.
Exactly. Who will look out for you, who's not gonna just leave you, like they'll be the ones to take care of you.
I love that so much. Stephen, you've been great. This was amazing advice for the bitch besties out there. I had a good time. I'm tipsy. No more alcohol for me. I loved having you here. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you want people to follow you? If so, then how can they find you?
Sure. So I'm not huge on social media. I'm not big on social media. So I promise I'm a real person. I only have like 10 posts on my Instagram, but I would say Instagram is probably the best way. My handle is at Scuba Steve 116. So it's SCUBA STVE 116.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed that. You were a pleasure. And thank you, bitch besties, for listening. Cheers, bitches. See you next week.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
That was it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And if you are as excited and opinionated as Peanut and me, please give us a follow on Instagram at the Judgy Bitch Pod. And don't forget, please also tell everybody you know about this new podcast so they come and follow us as well. We would much appreciate it. Would you like to be part of it? Sure, go ahead. Send us a DM with your feedback, your hot takes, and your unapologetic opinions. We might read them next time. And last but not least, don't forget, please follow, review, and rate wherever you listen to this podcast. See you next week. Cheers, bitches.